In the blistering heat of the Egyptian sun, shadows stretched long across the shifting sands as Amenhotep, a young apprentice scribe, carefully etched symbols into a limestone tablet. His movements were deliberate, each stroke guided by years of rigorous training under the watchful eyes of the high scribe, Thamos. These symbols were no ordinary hieroglyphs. They were equations, the very syntax of existence, capable of bending reality itself. Amenhotep's hand trembled as he completed the final glyph in the sequence. A faint hum resonated through the chamber, and the air grew thick with an electric charge. The small bowl of water beside him rippled and then froze solid, despite the oppressive desert heat. He exhaled sharply, a mixture of awe and terror filling his chest. "It worked," he whispered, staring at the now solid water. "I actually did it." From the corner of the room, Thamos stepped forward, his weathered face breaking into a thin smile. "Do not let your excitement cloud your discipline, young one. The mathematics of magic is precise. One deviation, one misplaced glyph, and reality itself could unravel." Amenhotep nodded, but his mind raced with possibilities. The merging of computation and mysticism was the cornerstone of Egyptian power, a secret guarded zealously by the pharaoh's most trusted scribes. The great pyramids, the irrigation canals, even the very cycles of the Nile were maintained by these equations etched into stone and whispered into the fabric of the cosmos. Yet Amenhotep could not shake the feeling that the hieroglyphs were more than tools. They were alive. Each symbol resonated with energy, as though it were a fragment of some greater, incomprehensible truth. That evening, as the golden light of Ra faded into the horizon, Amenhotep found himself in the Grand Archive, a labyrinthine chamber buried deep beneath the temple. The walls were lined with scrolls and tablets, each inscribed with sequences of hieroglyphs that had shaped the destiny of their civilization. Few were permitted entry, and even fewer dared to explore the darkest corners, where the most forbidden knowledge was kept. He had come seeking answers to a question that had haunted him for weeks. Who created the hieroglyphs? As he sifted through brittle papyrus scrolls, his fingers brushed against a peculiar tablet. Its surface was darker than obsidian, and the glyphs etched upon it shimmered faintly, as though alive. The symbols were unfamiliar, angular and sharp, unlike the flowing elegance of traditional hieroglyphs. Above the script, a single word was carved in a language he recognized only from ancient myths: Isfit chaos. Before he could comprehend its meaning, the ground beneath him trembled, and a low, guttural sound echoed through the chamber. The tablet pulsed with light, and the glyphs began to rearrange themselves, forming new sequences faster than his eyes could follow. "What have you done?" A voice boomed, startling Amenhotep. Thamos stood at the entrance, his face pale with fear. "I touched nothing," Amenhotep stammered. "It responded to me." Thamos rushed forward, his hands glowing faintly as he traced a counter-sequence in the air. The trembling ceased, but the tablet continued to pulse with a faint, menacing light. "You should not be here," Thamos hissed, his usual calm replaced by urgency. "This tablet is a fragment of the Forbidden Code, a language capable of unraveling Ma'at itself, the order of the universe. It was locked away for a reason. But why?" Amenhotep pressed. "What if it holds the key to understanding the hieroglyphs, to unlocking their full potential?" Thamos hesitated, his gaze fixed on the tablet. "Because it was not created by man, nor by any god we revere. The Forbidden Code predates even the Neteru. It is a language of pure chaos, capable of reshaping reality with no regard for balance. Those who wielded it sought power beyond comprehension, and they nearly destroyed the world." Amenhotep's heart pounded. "Then why not destroy it?" "Because it is indestructible," Thamos admitted grimly, "and because it whispers truths we cannot ignore." That night, Amenhotep could not sleep. The whispers of the Forbidden Code haunted him, tugging at the edges of his mind. He knew he should let it go, trust in Thamos' wisdom and the ancient laws of Ma'at. But the allure was too great. What if the tablet contained secrets that could elevate Egypt to untold glory? What if it could solve the mystery of the hieroglyphs' origins? Before dawn, he returned to the Grand Archive, his resolve hardened. The tablet awaited him, its surface dim but still alive. This time, he placed his hand on it deliberately, letting its warmth seep into his skin. The glyphs flared to life, and a voice, deep, resonant, and ancient, spoke within his mind. You seek the source of the symbols. Are you prepared to pay the price of truth? Amenhotep swallowed hard. I am. The room dissolved into darkness, and he found himself standing on the edge of a vast expanse of stars and symbols, a cosmic tapestry woven from the threads of reality itself. At its center, a figure emerged, neither man nor god, but a swirling embodiment of light and shadow. We are the architects, it said. The hieroglyphs are fragments of our design, a language gifted to your kind to maintain balance. But balance is fragile, and curiosity is its greatest enemy. Amenhotep's voice trembled. Why gift us such power if it is so dangerous? Because without it, your kind would remain blind to the greater cosmos, the architects replied. But beware, power without understanding breeds chaos. The Forbidden Code is proof of this. It was not meant for mortal hands. As the vision faded, Amenhotep awoke on the floor of the archive, the tablet cold and lifeless beside him. He knew then that his life had changed irrevocably. He had glimpsed the truth behind the mathematics of magic, and it was more vast and terrifying than he had ever imagined. But questions still burned within him. Who were the architects, truly? And what lay beyond the fragile balance of Ma'at? As he rose to his feet, Amenhotep resolved to find the answers, no matter the cost. The hieroglyphs were only the beginning. The days that followed were a haze of sleepless nights and secret research. Amenhotep pored over every scroll, tablet, and fragment he could find, tracing the faintest whispers of knowledge about the architects and the Forbidden Code. The Grand Archive seemed to resist his efforts, as though it knew he sought truths that were better left buried. Thamos, ever watchful, noticed the changes in his apprentice. You carry the weight of dangerous thoughts, Amenhotep, he said one evening, his voice heavy with concern. I warned you about the tablet, yet you continue to court disaster. It's more than the tablet, master, Amenhotep replied, his eyes shadowed by exhaustion. The architects, what do we truly know of them? We use the hieroglyphs every day, bending the world to our will. But do we understand their origins? Or the cost? Thamos sighed, his gaze distant. The cost is evident in our history, if you know where to look. Do you think the great cataclysm that fractured the first dynasty was an accident? It was the result of scribes who, like you, sought to uncover too much. The balance of Ma'at is delicate. Push too far, and you risk unraveling it entirely. But what if the balance is a lie? Amenhotep pressed. What if it's only a prison designed to keep us from reaching our true potential? Thamos' expression darkened. Such thoughts are the first steps toward chaos, my boy. Do not let your ambition blind you. Late one night, as the desert winds howled outside the temple, Amenhotep made a fateful decision. He returned to the Grand Archive, this time with a chisel and a blank tablet. The memory of the Forbidden Code burned in his mind, its angular glyphs etched into his thoughts. He would recreate them, piece by piece, to understand their power. As he carved the first sequence, the air grew heavy, and the room seemed to tilt. The symbols glowed faintly, their sharp edges casting eerie shadows on the walls. A faint hum filled the chamber, growing louder with each stroke. When the final glyph was completed, a rift tore through the air before him. Beyond it lay a realm of swirling light and darkness, a place that defied comprehension. A figure emerged, a being of pure energy, its form shifting between humanoid and monstrous. You dare summon me? It boomed, its voice reverberating through the chamber. A mere mortal, tampering with the code? Amenhotep stumbled backward, his heart pounding. What are you? I am Sekhmet, keeper of the code, the being replied. I was imprisoned within the Forbidden Code to safeguard the balance you so recklessly endanger. Your actions have weakened the seal. The balance is a cage, Amenhotep shouted, emboldened by desperation. Why should we be bound by it when the code offers limitless potential. Sekhmet's form flickered, and the chamber grew colder. Foolish child, the balance is not a cage. It is the only thing preventing the annihilation of your world. The code is chaos incarnate, a force that cannot be controlled. Those who wield it will only hasten their destruction. But Amenhotep could not let go of his conviction. Then teach me how to control it, he pleaded. If the balance is so fragile, perhaps it is time to rebuild it stronger, better. Sekhmet hesitated, its form stabilizing. You would seek to rebuild Myat itself? Such hubris. Yet perhaps there is merit in your ambition. If you truly wish to understand the code, then prove your worth. The rift widened, and Amenhotep was pulled into the swirling abyss. He found himself standing in a vast expanse of glowing symbols and shifting landscapes. Sekhmet's voice echoed around him. You must solve the riddle of creation, a challenge no mortal has ever succeeded in. Fail, and you will be consumed by the very chaos you seek to wield. The riddle of creation was not a question, but a puzzle, a labyrinth of glyphs and equations that shifted and reformed as he approached them. Each step required him to balance forces of light and shadow, creation and destruction, using the logic of the hieroglyphs. Time lost meaning in the void. Hours, days, perhaps even years passed as Amenhotep worked tirelessly. His mind ached from the strain, but he pressed on, driven by a mix of fear and determination. Slowly, the patterns began to make sense, revealing glimpses of a truth so vast it threatened to overwhelm him. Finally, with trembling hands, he placed the last glyph into the sequence. The labyrinth dissolved, and he stood before Sekhmet once more. You have succeeded where all others have failed, the keeper said, its voice tinged with awe. You have glimpsed the heart of the code, but be warned, knowledge comes at a price. Amenhotep returned to the physical world, the forbidden code etched into his mind and soul. But he was no longer the same. He could see the threads of reality, the equations that bound existence together. With a thought, he could manipulate them, reshaping the world as he saw fit. But the whispers of chaos lingered, and a new question burned within him. If the balance could be rebuilt, who would decide its shape? The mathematics of magic had given him the power to reshape reality. But at what cost? And as Amenhotep gazed out at the sleeping city of Thebes, he knew his journey had only just begun. Amenhotep's return to Thebes was met with silence, save for the whispers of the night wind and the faint hum of reality bending to his will. The streets seemed more vivid, the hieroglyphs carved into temple walls alive with meaning only he could now comprehend. Every line, every curve, was a thread in the cosmic tapestry, waiting to be plucked or rewoven. But with this newfound power came a gnawing unease. The whispers of chaos lingered, faint yet insistent, tugging at the edges of his mind. Rebuild, they urged. Reshape. Nothing must remain as it was. Amenhotep pushed the whispers aside. There were questions to answer and truths to uncover, but he needed allies, or at least witnesses. Thamos was the first person who came to mind. Though the high scribe had warned against this path, his wisdom and experience were unparalleled. If anyone could guide Amenhotep in wielding this power responsibly, it was him. Thamos' private chamber was dimly lit, the faint glow of an oil lamp casting long shadows on the walls. The older man looked up from a scroll as Amenhotep entered, his expression shifting from surprise to guarded suspicion. You've done something, Thamos said without preamble. I can feel it. The air itself is heavier. I've solved the riddle of creation, Amenhotep replied, his voice steady despite the storm raging within him. I've seen the code for what it truly is, and I've mastered it. Thamos' eyes widened, a rare crack in his stoic facade. You fool, he hissed, rising to his feet. Do you understand what you've done? The code is not a gift. It is a burden. Every action you take with it ripples through the fabric of existence. Even now, you may be unraveling Myat without realizing it. Myat is already fragile, Amenhotep countered, his frustration boiling over. We've spent centuries patching it together with hieroglyphs, pretending we understand its true nature. But now, I can see the whole picture. We don't have to fear chaos. We can harness it, rebuild the balance stronger than ever. Thamos shook his head, his expression a mix of sorrow and anger. You speak like those who came before the cataclysm, those who thought they could control forces beyond their comprehension. They brought ruin to the first dynasty, and you will do the same if you continue down this path. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Thamos' tone softened. It's not too late, Amenhotep. We can contain this. Seal the knowledge away again before it's too late. But Amenhotep saw no wisdom in retreat. You don't understand, he said quietly. It's already too late. The code is alive, Thamos. It's growing, evolving. If we don't guide it, it will guide itself. And who knows what that will mean for our world. Amenhotep left the chamber with a heavy heart, knowing he had lost Thamos' trust. As he walked through the temple's shadowed halls, the whispers of chaos grew louder, more insistent. They spoke of hidden truths, of ancient forces waiting to be unleashed. One name echoed in his mind, the Obelisk of Shai. The whispers told him it was no ordinary monument. Hidden beneath its towering facade lay a nexus of power, a convergence of Ma'at and chaos, where the forbidden code had once been tested. If Amenhotep truly wished to rebuild the balance, he would need to unlock its secrets. The journey to the obelisk was perilous, taking him deep into the desert where the sands seemed to shift with a will of their own. As he approached the towering structure, he felt the weight of its power pressing against him. The hieroglyphs carved into its surface shimmered faintly, their patterns unlike anything he had seen before. They pulsed in a rhythm that seemed to echo the beat of his own heart. At its base, a narrow passageway led into darkness. Amenhotep hesitated only briefly before stepping inside, his resolve outweighing his fear. The chamber beneath the obelisk was vast, its walls covered in glyphs that seemed to twist and writhe as he approached. At its center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a golden tablet. The symbols etched into its surface glowed faintly, radiating a power that made the air around it hum. As Amenhotep reached for the tablet, a voice filled the chamber, deep and resonant. You are not the first to seek this power, it said, and you will not be the last. What makes you worthy? Amenhotep hesitated, his hand hovering over the tablet. I don't seek power for myself, he said. I seek to rebuild Ma'at, to create a balance that cannot be broken. The voice laughed, a sound that reverberated through his very bones. Balance is an illusion. Chaos and order are two sides of the same coin. To rebuild one is to destroy the other. I refuse to believe that, Amenhotep said firmly. There must be a way to harmonize them. The voice fell silent, and the chamber grew still. Then, with a blinding flash of light, the glyphs on the tablet rearranged themselves, forming a new sequence. Amenhotep felt a surge of energy as the symbols burned themselves into his mind. Very well, the voice said. You have taken the first step. But know this. The path you walk will not lead to peace. It will lead to war. A war between those who embrace chaos and those who cling to order. Choose your allies wisely, for the battle to reshape reality has already begun. As Amenhotep emerged from the obelisk, the whispers of chaos were no longer faint murmurs. They roared within him, a torrent of possibilities and dangers. The power he now wielded was immense, but so too was the responsibility. And as he gazed across the horizon, he saw the first signs of the coming storm. The glyphs in the sky above Thebes shifted, their patterns distorted as the balance of Ma'at trembled. The war had begun. Amenhotep stood at the crest of a dune, watching the sky above Thebes churn like an unspoken warning. The air itself felt taut, as though the world held its breath, waiting for his next move. He had crossed a threshold that could not be undone, and the war between chaos and order was no longer a distant possibility. It was unfolding before his eyes. As Amenhotep descended back into the city, he noticed subtle signs of the imbalance. Walls inscribed with hieroglyphs shimmered unnaturally, their power fluctuating as if caught between two forces. The streets were quieter than usual, the people tense, their gazes flickering toward the heavens. Even the Nile, steady and eternal, seemed to hesitate in its flow. At the Temple of Maat, Thamos was surrounded by senior scribes, their expressions grim as they studied a tablet inscribed with sequences of glyphs Amenhotep didn't recognize. The moment Amenhotep entered, the air in the chamber grew heavy, and all eyes turned to him. "You've done it," Thamos said, his voice sharp with accusation. "The balance is breaking." "It was already breaking," Amenhotep countered. "I've merely accelerated the inevitable. But this doesn't have to mean destruction. If we act now, we can guide this transformation." Thamos slammed his hand against the tablet. "Guide it? You speak as though chaos can be tamed. Look around you. The hieroglyphs are unraveling, the foundations of Maat crumbling. Your ambition has lit a fire we may never extinguish." Before Amenhotep could respond, a tremor shook the temple. A fissure split the floor beneath them, and from the crack, a figure emerged, an abomination of light and shadow, its form constantly shifting. Glyphs floated around it, disjointed and malformed, as though chaos itself had taken shape. The scribes recoiled in terror, but Amenhotep stepped forward, his mind racing. The entity was not entirely unfamiliar. It was a manifestation of the imbalance he had created, a fragment of the forbidden code brought into the physical world. The creature's voice was a cacophony, each word a collision of sounds. "The balance is gone. The world will be rewritten." Amenhotep raised his hands, weaving a sequence of glyphs in the air. The symbols glowed and twisted, forming a barrier that slowed the entity's advance. "Leave," he commanded. "You are not yet free to reshape this world." The creature paused, as if considering his words. Then, with a shuddering roar, it dissolved into fragments of light, retreating back into the fissure. But Amenhotep knew this was only the beginning. As the scribes regained their composure, Thamos approached Amenhotep, his expression unreadable. "You can fight them," he said reluctantly, "but you cannot do it alone." "I don't intend to," Amenhotep replied. "There are others who understand the hieroglyphs in ways we do not. The desert priests, the keepers of shadows. They've guarded secrets outside the temple's reach. If we are to stand a chance, we must unite all who can wield the mathematics of magic." Thamos hesitated, but he nodded. "If you believe this is the way forward, I will support you. But know this: you've opened the door to forces we cannot control. Every step you take now will ripple across eternity." The journey to the desert priest's sanctuary was arduous, taking Amenhotep and a small band of scribes deep into the western desert, where the sands whispered ancient secrets and the stars seemed to align in unfamiliar patterns. The priests, long thought to be myth, were said to possess glyphs too dangerous to record, their power rivaling even that of the Forbidden Code. When they arrived at the sanctuary, an underground complex hidden beneath a crumbling plateau, they were met with hostility. Masked figures armed with staffs etched in glowing hieroglyphs surrounded them, their leader stepping forward with a voice like gravel. "Why have you come here, scribes of Thebes?" the leader demanded. "The temple has long ignored our warnings. What makes you seek us now?" Amenhotep stepped forward, unflinching. "The balance is breaking, and chaos rises. I have seen the code and survived. If we do not unite, there will be nothing left to protect." The leader studied him for a long moment before nodding. "You speak as one who has walked the edge of madness. Very well, we will hear your plea." In the weeks that followed, Amenhotep forged a fragile alliance between the Temple of Maat, the desert priests, and other factions who had long guarded their secrets. Together, they uncovered a shocking truth. The rift in Maat was not merely a consequence of Amenhotep's actions. It was tied to the Obelisk of Duat, a mythical structure said to be the interface between the mortal realm and the cosmic forces of order and chaos. Legend spoke of the obelisk as a bridge, a construct of both the hieroglyphs and the Forbidden Code. If it could be stabilized, it might restore balance or destroy everything. Guided by ancient maps and fragments of forgotten texts, the Alliance set out for the obelisk, its location hidden in the shadow of the Black Pyramid, a structure older than even the Great Pyramids. The journey was fraught with danger, as chaotic anomalies manifested more frequently. storms that spoke in glyphs, rivers that flowed backward, and creatures born of fractured reality. When they finally reached the Black Pyramid, the obelisk loomed before them, a towering structure that seemed to hum with power. Its surface was covered in glyphs that shifted constantly, their meaning elusive even to Amenhotep. "The obelisk is alive," one of the desert priests whispered, "and it knows we are here." As they approached, the obelisk began to glow, its glyphs rearranging into patterns Amenhotep could barely comprehend. A voice, deep and resonant, filled the air. "The balance is broken. Rebuild it, or let chaos reign. Choose." Amenhotep hesitated, the weight of the choice pressing down on him. To rebuild the balance would mean imposing a new order, one that might stifle the potential of the hieroglyphs forever. But to embrace chaos was to risk total annihilation. "Whatever we decide," Thamos said quietly, "it will define the future of this world." Amenhotep looked at the obelisk, its shifting glyphs reflecting his own inner turmoil. The whispers of chaos and the promise of order swirled in his mind, each vying for dominance. The mathematics of magic had brought them to this moment, and whatever choice he made, there would be no turning back.